Yep, go ahead. Munishi, I can't hear you. Munishi, I can't hear you, and that doesn't happen very often.
Okay, now it's on. Okay, I'm Munishi Sanyal, IIT Madras 1970. I just want to, this is more a statement, not a question, but panelists can chime in. Over the past 3 years, Pan IIT has been driving an initiative in Silicon Valley in particular to promote the idea that innovation is happening in India and this is going to be a preferred destination. So we're trying to project that there's a tremendous growth of creative talent coming about in India. So we invite all the CEOs of Silicon Valley companies to come and hear some of the key speakers from India. And in fact, Arjun was a part of that program last year when we had Sam Pitroda as our keynote speaker. And before that, we had Professor Jhunjhunwala. So we've been running this every year and probably do it for a few more years till it sort of sinks in. But we are telling people there, the CEOs and all, that beyond the labor arbitrage, you need to go and look at the higher value add items. For a starting step, we are asking them to look at research and innovation kind of work in India. But again, when we keep that in mind, we are still defining the problem in the US and finding the solution in India. We want to move that one step further because of the fact that there is a tremendous reverse migration of IITians who've gone to the US and are coming back to India. And they have certain ideas about the kind of products that can be released in the market. Now, with that sort of traffic, reverse traffic that is taking place, there would be new ideas where the product concept itself would be developed in India. Right now, we are trying to be more on solution-oriented. That means we are solving a problem, but searching for that problem or creating a solution that could fit into the market, a completely new disruptive technology. That's where we need to head, and that's the initiative Pan IIT is driving, and I've been given charge of doing this for the past 3 years, and I think Arjun can also chip in on a couple of those things.
Yep. Sunny, thanks. That is a statement, and I think everyone sort of agrees with that in general. But let me do it this way. Why don't we have 3 or 4 questions, and then we can get the panel to answer them. So let's have the questions. I can't see.
Sir.
Just grab a mic and.
Hi.
Okay.
Sir, can I, sir, since I have the mic, can I ask this question?
Yeah, go ahead, the person with the mic.
The question is, first of all, thank you to IT industry, because 30 years ago when I left, India was known for only poverty and maybe beauty, but now another IT has been attached. However, the IT, as we think, I have heard a lot today that it requires a lot of research, a lot of innovation and entrepreneurship, and there's no two ways about it. One thing that was coming to my mind, I visit a lot of IITs, and I often say that our BTech students need to be more involved in research. And I'm categorically told, oh no, our MTech students do publication, or our PhDs will do publication, but BTech level we don't really insist. And I was wondering, why don't we insist? Perhaps by insisting, we'll get a lot of output in research, and research does lead to innovation and entrepreneurship. This is just a thought from me.
Next question, please.
Yes, I am Sudipto Chakravarti, 2006 IIT Kharagpur. I have a question specifically for Mr. Chris sir and Mr. Anand sir, that for example, 5 years from now, your age of average employee age will increase, and also the cost of those employees, let us say who are in the 35 to 40 or 40 to 45 age group, that will also increase. So on one hand, you will have a costlier employees who are working in say 40 to 45 age range, that group, and you can get employees who are in say 20 to 25 age who will be less costlier at that time. So would you practice replacing the elder employees with the new ones, because they will be more efficient for from a company perspective, and they can put more number of hours instead of those older employees. So what is your thoughts on this?
Okay, look, let's get the next question.
Yeah. Okay. Can I ask a question? I am Alakranda Rao, 1979, IIT Kharagpur. All of you panelists talked about IT industry, and as in India, the IT industry as such provides services. Harsh talked about IT products which are more related to hardware. I didn't hear any of you speak much about software or shrink wrap products. with services becoming more and more expensive from the more and more expensive the services become for us to deliver, do you think that we should make sufficient investment in world-class products? Today there is not even a simple antivirus solution which can be or an ERP solution which can be considered of Indian origin. Do you think that could be the answer, and do you think we in the IT industry should focus more on software products rather than services?
Yeah, there was a gentleman in front here.
My question is, IBM in India has 120,000 people. Accenture has 75,000 people. Capgemini has 33,000 people. The global multinationals are more than meeting the global delivery advantages of Indian companies. But they have better industry knowledge. Then you have freelancer.com, crowdsourcing platforms. So where do you see the competitive advantage for Indian companies in the years ahead?
Okay, let's answer. The first question was on old employees, new young employees.
So, fortunately, the average age of employees in most of the large companies is about 26, 27. 70% of our new hires are straight from campus. So, hopefully that situation will not happen. What you said will not happen. We'll continue to depend on younger and younger employees. The industry is generally very young, and I'm sure that's the case with all the major companies.
So I think the question is valid, especially for, if I can observe the average age in this room. Given the IT, let me give you a I am myself well in that range. So I think the way we look at it in Google and in my prior companies is as follows. If in the product industry, the game is not numbers and it's not cost. In fact, we shun any notion of arbitrage when we make the argument for opening development centers across the globe. We do not talk about arbitrage at all because in the product industry, it tends to play against us in the long run. In the short run, you get critical mass, but in the long run, it goes against you. Oh, the talent was cheaper and so on. Not in a derogatory way. It's just it's a mindset. So we don't play the cost card at all. The thing that we play is the repatriation trends, right? That favor Indian companies. So one of the other statistics is that in product companies, so I was at Microsoft prior to Google, and the average number of, or the average proportion of Indians or people of Indian origin in positions of influence is staggering. It is staggering. In Google Global, the sales head is Indian, and I think 3 out of the 7 senior vice presidents are of Indian origin. So that gives you a sense for how accomplished this group is, and they're all mostly alumni of premier institutes. So there is a lot of respect for Indian talent, and the repatriation is a very strong argument in our world. Let me tell the gentleman directly. The biggest problem we face is we get a lot of smart engineers coming out of IITs and other premier institutions. And then we have repatriates at very, very senior levels. People who come into, kind of the, so you have a big gap in the middle. These are the people who stayed on the individual contributor path, for instance, stayed close to the R&D, close to the trenches, who could be real role models for the students coming out, and they are missing. So in fact, we have the reverse problem. If there are people here who are interested, in calling the bluff on, at least on Google, with respect to the middle band, I'll welcome you. The problem is immense. The typical experience level between 9 and 15 years is a huge gap for us. Continues to be.
So can I actually take the next? Yeah. So to answer Alka Rao's question, Harsh.
So there was a question on need for software products, and in a way it's also linked to the next question on what's the next wave of competitiveness even for services. there is a lot of software product industry right now that's thriving now in India. They are still small, but lots of them have begun to come up. For example, and our large growing market is offering that opportunity. For example, mobile banking. We all hear of M-Pesa, but there is even a larger mobile banking industry that's now emerging in India with actually completely homegrown product. We yesterday probably heard, some of you might have heard Nandan speak about the UIDAI Aadhaar program. It's what they are implementing, and we at HCL are associated with it as their technology partner, is the largest open source database holding biometrics of 1.2 billion people. Nowhere in the world it has ever been tried, even to 1/5 this scale. The amount of IP creation that it is doing, amount of products that it is now creating out of online biometric authentication. So tomorrow if a courier comes to your house and wants to identify you as you, you would actually be able to identify yourself not with what used to be Angutha Chap, but your biometric ID. So a lot of such new IP creation is happening, and that itself is also going to help us stay competitive, because then it will be IP-centric services and solutions and not just labor cost arbitrage-based services.
So, you know, this thing about products versus services, frankly, in Microsoft, we believe all software products will become services. I mean, that's the whole beauty of the cloud. We talked about virus. Why would you need to buy a virus product and pay a maintenance fee for it every year? Just buy it as a service. Somebody will just, you know, your PC will automatically download it, it'll upgrade itself, and you just pay a monthly or a, you know, a fee for it. So all products will become services in some form or the other. Now, the economics of services, which is application kind of services or system integration kinds of services, is different. But, you know, the general perception or general belief is that most products will become some form of a service going forward, which you will not buy upfront, but which you will, in a sense, pay for on a usage basis.
Thanks, Mark. Now, the third question was on, will we get into verticals? Will we be able to compete with the multinationals in some of these vertical segments in terms of knowledge and domain knowledge in that area? Would you like to?
Yeah. So it's a very valid point, and it goes to my allusion to the fact that the Indian IT industry has to be competitive and continue to be paranoid about our existing businesses. So to me, this is an example of how do we get better at what we do today. Clearly, all the major players in the services industry have invested substantially over the last 10 years in building that domain capability. Yes, there are global players who are very strong incumbents there, but we are seen as the disruptors. So if you now look at the beauty contest, the FinTech 100 and so on, the top 5 will typically have 2 or 3 of the large Indian players being mentioned along with some of the names that you had talked about. So we are getting there to at least parity, which is necessary to compete. Question is, how do we now leapfrog, go beyond banking, financial services, get into healthcare, get into telecommunications, into transportation, into retail, and so on. And that's part of our competitiveness in our existing industry. There's nothing to be alarmed about or be scared that it can't be done. Surely it can be done. I don't think there's any issue that we are, or we are not recognizing the problem.
Okay, are there any more questions? I can take one more. I've got 5 minutes.
I have a question. See, the Indian IT industry, it actually grabs the best of the engineering educational talent. So we have, let's say, about some 500,000 engineering graduates. The IT industry grabs a major share of it. 1.5 million graduates, they are scattered across into the other industries. So what is the IT industry going to do about it? Probably one of the things that could be done is IT industry, the bigger players should probably be having some kind of private public partnership with the other engineering colleges to foster better research in the other engineering streams, or something of that sort. Or what do you think? I mean, I would welcome some.
Arjun, could I also put in a question? I'm here. I'm Kiran Seth here. Okay. This side.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm this side.
Okay.
I just want to put in a question here that, you know, most of the work which IT, all our bright people are doing is in the very, very tangible and very here and now domain in the IT industry. Most of our bright people are solving problems which are here and now. But would the IT industry think of putting in some money into a research lab like Bell Labs or like IBM Research Labs, which will be thinking of it in a much, much altogether, not with small amounts, because like Bell Labs could produce 7, 8 Nobel laureates, so many Nobel laureates because of the fact that a lot of money was put in into fundamental research. And I think that it might be a nice idea if a conglomerate of all these very rich companies could think of something like this.
Actually, before
let's answer those questions, and then we'll see if we've got time for any more.
There's actually just linked to what these two questions were asked. So I'll just request if I can just add to it. See, all these questions are all about what is IT industry doing in terms of investing back into the system for the future growth. If I look back over the last 2 decades, IT industry has been at the forefront of job creation. And with that, there was always a need for more and more engineers, more and more MBAs coming to schools. And with that, so many schools have mushroomed that it has kept pace with the overall supply of it. But if you look back, the problem is something different now. If the question is asked, all those people who are now coming out with these degrees, do they have skills to be employable? And I get very mixed response on that. And there are very pessimistic views also that, more than 60%, more than 70%, some of those stats are thrown at that they're not employable. So my question is, what is IT industry going to do to ensure that, or, to basically partner with the education institution to ensure that, that doesn't become a big epidemic problem in the future?
Okay, now let's get the answers. So should we answer Kiran Seth's question first?
I'll take the research thing. And so, yeah, so clearly the epitome of what I call the 20th century model of research, where the names AT&T, Bell Labs, and IBM, and so on. And incidentally, both are present in India as under their own banner. And they are doing decent work here as well. But to me, the 21st century model of research is not trying to repeat what they did in that era, but trying to do something very different with open innovation, with collaboration, with networks, startup companies working with universities and startups working with large companies and doing something really creative. We may not win Nobel Prizes. Incidentally, there is no Nobel for computing yet, so that's a little bit of a disappointment. But the issue is that we must continue to invest in research. I think all the large players have recognized that. In my company, we have more than quadrupled our spend in R&D. We filed for 1,000 patents and so on, which is good, all to the good. But has something to the extent of the history of a Bell Labs or IBM emerged yet? The answer is no. It's been just about a decade that we have been at it, so give us a little bit of time. So that larger question of building a research ecosystem, are the IT companies doing stuff? The answer is yes. Infosys has a fellowship program, Microsoft has one, TCS has one. We fund a tremendous number of PhD scholars in the private sector. The PM's National Scholarship Scheme, which has just been announced, which will be launched in early January, actually encourages that from the government perspective, that the government will top up PhD scholarships to the extent that the industry will fund and so on. So there is a decent amount of attention now to industry funding of research, of industry collaboration in research and ecosystems, which gives me cause for optimism.
So let me answer the first question, which is about the large number of engineering graduates who actually moved to the IT industry, and the question is, what is the IT industry doing? IT industry is working with these engineering colleges to improve the quality of education. There are multiple programs. There's a Pan-IIT program, which is about Indo-US collaboration on engineering education, IUCEE, where professors from the US university come to India every year and work with 500, 600 professors in Indian engineering colleges to upgrade their skill sets, etc. There are multiple programs such as this now happening to improve the quality of the teachers. Once the quality of the teachers improve, we believe the quality of the students would also improve. So there are many programs. There is a program to increase the number of PhD students. Again, some of the PhD students would continue and teach also. So there are multiple programs happening. See, what I would say is that it's the other way around. What the IT industry has done is it has actually worked with the academic institutions, worked internally to create an ecosystem where we created these employees. In 1993, the industry had 150,000 employees. 20 years later, the industry has 2.5 million employees. That means more than 10, 15 times actually it has grown. The reason is the industry created those employees. Other industries now are looking at this model and creating their own programs to create their employees. So if, let's say, the retail industry or the construction industry or the manufacturing industry wants very high quality engineers, they need to actually invest, just like the IT industry has done, in working with the engineering colleges to create the students they need, quality students they need. They need to invest in education within their own companies, which they're doing now, to create the employees that they require. I think that's the solution, rather than saying, IT industry, should not take these people or should do more, actually.
Hello.
Yeah, I have a slightly different perspective. I think engineering colleges, you're already way past the point where the wiring of the brain has happened with respect to risk-taking. So I encourage everyone in this room to, I think our hope lies in our youth. When we go into the campuses and we see the new college graduates out of your esteemed universities, interview for our companies, ask the bright, fearless questions, and somewhere along the way, they lose that cynicism, and cynicism sets in. Sorry, they lose that optimism. And I don't know how to fix that quite yet. I think it's a challenge in the room. We will not answer this here. But I think we have to figure out how our education system, right from the cradle, prevents fear from setting in, because we have nothing to fear. This is a country that has been the top of the economic ladder throughout its history. This is the Sone ki Chidiya. I have no idea what happened in the last 200 years. So I'm sorry, it's philosophical, but I honestly believe, I think the answer is way, way earlier in our lifetimes.
Arjun, may I have one question?
No, we finished. You can catch us later.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the audience and thank you to the panel. Thank you.